Russian energy and Central Asian banks will cripple under new harsh sanctions. Kyiv urged swift Patriot delivery. What was discussed at the 30th meeting in Ramstein format? We will tell you more in this episode, so you'll be in focus. Stay with us for the latest updates and exclusive reports. Sanctions against banks from 2 Central Asian countries and new restrictions on Russian energy. The European Union, in coordination with the United States, is working on a 19th package of anti-Russian sanctions. More details to follow on when Brussels will unveil the contents of the package and what recommendations the Americans are giving in the next report.
France and Germany have proposed sanctions against the Russian oil company Lukoil and its subsidiary Litasco. Lukoil remains not only one of Russia's leading oil producers after the state-owned Rosneft, but also operates a network of fuel stations in EU countries, including Belgium. Berlin and Paris emphasize that oil and gas sales are a key source of financing for Russia's war against Ukraine. They therefore urge Brussels to add to the EU sanctions list both refineries in third countries that help export Russian fuel to Europe, as well as trading companies dealing with Russian oil.
They believe it is extremely important to strengthen oversight of entities, companies, and third countries at the center of these hydrocarbon sales, including Lukoil, one of the last private firms in this sector in Russia. This company, one of Russia's leading oil producers, also owns filling stations in the EU, particularly in Belgium, from the RTBF publication citing its sources.
Germany and France propose, including restrictions against Lukoil in the EU's 19th sanctions package. Western media report that the European Commission may present the contents of the package before the end of this week.
The package, which would be the bloc's 19th since Moscow's full-scale invasion in 2022, could also see the EU target Russia's payment and credit card systems, crypto exchanges, as well as further restrictions on the country's oil trade, from the Bloomberg publication.
The European Union is preparing the upcoming sanctions package in close coordination with the United States, said European Council President Antonio Costa.
We are supporting Ukraine not only financially, but we are supporting Ukraine militarily. We are preparing the 19th package on sanctions in close coordination with the United States.
An EU delegation of experts in energy, financial services, and trade, together with the EU's Special Envoy for Sanctions, David O'Sullivan, held a meeting with their American counterparts. At the U.S. Treasury, they discussed new forms of economic pressure on Russia, including additional sanctions and tariffs on Russian oil.
Business as usual has not worked. We are willing to take strong measures against Russia, but our European partners must fully join us in this to be successful. I made this clear today when meeting with EU's Special Envoy for Sanctions, David O'Sullivan. Scott Bessent, United States Secretary of the Treasury, on social media platform X.
Earlier, Axios reported that the White House instructed the Treasury Department to draft a sanctions list that Europe could adopt against Russia. The United States has also proposed that the EU introduce additional tariffs on India and China, as well as fully halt purchases of Russian oil and gas. Currently, the EU and several other countries maintain a price cap of $47.60 per barrel on Russian oil. A full embargo on Russian energy could deprive Moscow of its main instrument of terror.
I am grateful to all partners, but some of them still buy Russian oil and gas, and that is unfair. We must stop buying any energy resources from Russia. We cannot have any deals with the Kremlin if we want to stop it, and I very much hope that President Trump will do this, put pressure on Putin. It is the only way to stop the killer. We must take away his weapon, and energy is Putin's weapon.
While further sanctions are still under discussion in Washington and Brussels, Ukraine's defense forces continue disabling Russian energy infrastructure with long-range strikes. On September 7th, soldiers of the 14th Regiment of Ukraine's drone forces struck the Vitorovo oil pumping station in the Vladimir region.
The Vitorovo station has been slightly damaged. It pumped, or used to pump, diesel fuel into the Moscow Ring petroleum pipeline. Petrol is becoming a scarce liquid, and gas and oil are turning into quickly burning resources. Robert Madyar Brovdy, commander of Ukraine's drone forces, on Facebook.
Only in August, Ukrainian forces carried out 11 successful long-range strikes on enemy energy facilities. Reuters columnist Ron Busso reported that reduced domestic capacity in August forced Russia to increase oil exports from Western ports by 200,000 barrels per day, or 11%. Ukrainian strikes have also caused gasoline shortages in some regions of Russia and in Ukrainian cities temporarily occupied by the Russian Federation. Reported by Valeria Nekipolova, UATV News.
It has not yet arrived with tanks. Russia has already begun a hybrid war against the world. The International Institute for Strategic Studies has recorded a sharp increase in Russian sabotage across Europe. In 2022, only 6 significant incidents were documented. That number grew to 13 in 2023 and then spiked to 44 in 2024. The primary targets of these hybrid attacks are critical infrastructure, military logistics, energy facilities, and civilian sites, all chosen to spread fear, create uncertainty, and increase tension in society.
Everything suggests that Putin's imperial plan will not end with the capture of Ukraine, but will only begin there. Every day we face increasingly intense and aggressive Russian hybrid attacks on our infrastructure. We see provocations in the North and Baltic Seas. We see Russia and China seeking influence in southeastern Europe. And we must remember that Ukraine is defending our freedom in Europe, ladies and gentlemen. Friedrich Merz, Chancellor of Germany.
In just 4 months, nearly 123,000 flights have been disrupted by Russian signals interfering with GPS and other satellite systems, according to a report reviewed by SVT from Sweden and 5 neighboring countries. The disruptions have affected airspace over Poland, the Baltic states, Finland, and Sweden, and in some cases followed aircraft even after they had left the affected zones. Authorities have traced the sources of the interference to jamming stations located in Kaliningrad, St. Petersburg, Smolensk, and Rostov.
We can confirm, and we have evidence, that the disruptions originate from Russian territory. This is a serious problem that poses a threat to civil aviation safety, particularly given the scale, the duration, and the nature of the interference. Andreas Holmgren, head of department at the Swedish Transport Agency, in a comment to STV.
Among those civilian flights were also political leaders such as Ursula von der Leyen. The GPS system of the European Commission president's airplane was jammed on Sunday, August 31st, while she was en route to Bulgaria. The incident happened during von der Leyen's 4-day tour of EU member states bordering Russia.
We are, of course, aware and used to somehow to the threats and intimidations that are a regular component of Russia's hostile behavior. Of course, this will only reinforce even further our unshakable commitment to ramp up defense capabilities and support for Ukraine. This incident actually underlines the urgency of the mission that the President is carrying out in the frontline member states these days. There she has seen firsthand the everyday challenges of threats coming from Russia and its proxies. And of course, the EU will continue to invest into defense spending and in Europe's readiness even more after this incident.
At the same time, Zapad 2025 military exercises to be held in Western Russia and Belarus have raised security concerns in neighboring NATO member states Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia. Poland has completely closed its border with Belarus due to these drills. The Zapad 2025 exercises will include drills on the possible use of nuclear weapons and the Russian-made, intermediate-range hypersonic Oreshnik missile, according to the Belarus defense minister. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz also underscored the threat posed by Russia during his visit to watch German Navy exercises on Thursday, August 28th. The threat posed by Russia is real, Merz said, aboard the frigate Bayern in the Baltic Sea. Merz pointed out that Germany has an extremely important role in protecting the freedom, peace, and territorial integrity of NATO.
The threat posed by Russia is real. We see daily actions by the Russian army. They are testing our readiness and our ability to defend ourselves. And that is why I want to say that we will do everything in our power in the coming months and years to protect the freedom, peace, and territorial integrity of the alliance territory. And the Federal Republic of Germany has an extremely important role to play in this. Whether we like it or not, our geostrategic location is the hub of Europe. We must make a particularly great effort where we live, namely in Germany, to do just that, to defend our freedom, to defend peace, and to defend the territorial integrity of our territory.
Meanwhile, Russian officials continue their rhetoric of threats. During a visit to northwest Russia, Deputy Security Council Secretary Dmitry Medvedev accused Finland, Norway, Poland, and the Baltic states of preparing an attack, citing NATO's military presence near Russian borders.
We cannot ignore the fact that Finland is currently a member of the North Atlantic Alliance. This inevitably leads to changes in our military approach to securing the border and responding to potential hostile actions.
Medvedev's September 8th claims about Finland's alleged persecution of ethnic Russians, destruction of Russian culture, ties to Nazism, and threat to Russia's security directly parallel claims that the Kremlin has used to justify its invasions of Ukraine in 2014 and 2022. Medvedev claimed that the root causes of the current state of Russian-Finnish relations go back to the Second World War. Russian presidential aide and former Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev similarly claimed on March 13th that Finland tried to exterminate the Slavic population and that the West is again turning Finland into a springboard for aggression against Russia. From the Institute for the Study of War report.
Finland is being forced to strengthen its defenses in response to the threat from Russia. Prime Minister Petteri Orpo announced that defense spending will increase annually by billions of euros. We have no time for hesitation, Orpo concluded. According to Finland's military intelligence, Russia may concentrate its resources on the northern front once the high-intensity phase of the war in Ukraine comes to an end. Finland has already provided Ukraine with 29 military aid packages and is currently preparing the next one. Orpo stated at a press conference with European Council President Antonio Costa on Monday, September 8th in Helsinki.
Russia remains a long-term threat to Europe, especially to our eastern flank. The danger from Putin's Russia will not disappear, even if the fighting in Ukraine stops tomorrow. This is an existential challenge for Europe. Supporting Ukraine and countering Russia is the best investment in our common security.
The Kremlin's behavior fits a long-established doctrine. Back in 2013, Russia's Chief of General Staff Valery Gerasimov presented a lecture at the Academy of Military Sciences outlining the concept of hybrid warfare. It later became known as the Gerasimov doctrine, borrowing heavily from China's theory of unrestricted warfare. The doctrine emphasizes the use of sabotage, disinformation, and other non-linear methods as precursors to direct military action. Today's Russian diversions in Europe are textbook examples of that doctrine being put into practice. Reported by Alexandra Zaslavets, UATV News.
What's your take on all this? Share your thoughts below. This is UATV. Stay sharp, in focus, and stay safe.